Our next speaker, we'd like to welcome Larry Blunt. In his first season at the Drake University staff, he joined the Bulldogs after spending 2 seasons as an assistant coach at Canisius College in Buffalo, New York, where he helped to guide the Golden Griffins to a share of the Metro Atlantic Conference, the MAC, regular season title. In June 2016, 2 of his former players, a former Kentucky guard, Jamal Murray, and center Thon Maker, were taken 7th and 9th, respectively, in the 2016 NBA draft. Blunt was also the head coach for the Oshawa Power of the National Basketball League of Canada. Please welcome Larry Blunt.
My name is Larry Blunt, and I'm currently an assistant men's basketball coach at Drake University. Before we start, I would like to thank Coach Aaron Thomas for giving me an opportunity to speak and present on some of the views that I have on leadership and how those views have been shaped. I would like to honor his father, whose legacy and impact on the lives of others will never be lost. I'm fortunate to work with a living trophy that he's created, and I will reference living trophies. A friend of mine, Kevin Sutton, always uses that as a term for the impact that we as coaches can have and the long-standing results that come with that. He always says that guys that he's coached that are going on to be successful fathers, have successful professional careers, have success in every field of life. Those are the living trophies that we as coaches have an opportunity to produce and create. And I'm grateful for Coach Thomas for one of his living trophies that's really impacted my life over the last 3 years. A little bit about me is I'm from Cortland, Virginia, a very small town in Virginia with a population of roughly 1,300 people. After being there and playing football there, I was given an opportunity to go on a scholarship to a Division II school, Elizabeth City State University, which was a historically black college in North Carolina, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. After 2 years there, I got an opportunity to transfer and pursue a goal of playing Division I, and I got a chance to attend James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And from an educational standpoint, I finished my last piece of education at Canisius as I got an opportunity to earn a master's degree. And I would like to open with a quote from Joel Barker. "A leader is a person you will follow to a place you will not go by yourself." And as I go through this presentation, I hope that you can consider the various ways that we can get people, and as a leader, the various ways we can help them reach that destination or that place. Some of my leadership experience has been shaped by some of my experiences, and some of my leadership has been shaped by some of my experiences. My mother and my father both were graduates of Virginia Tech. My mom finished her PhD there, and my father played football at Virginia Tech. My mom's experience in education and some of the stories that she brought home and the compassion and her love for impacting young people is something that has shaped some of my leadership views. My father as a coach, as a football coach, and in starting a wrestling program in Franklin, Virginia, those things have impacted me. And how they interacted with each other, with our family, that's impacted my views on leadership. My sister, who has 2 beautiful kids now, her and her husband, she's a nurse, and the way she interacts and integrates with her family, as well as the way she interacts with her patients as a pediatric nurse, I've learned from that. It shaped my views on leadership. I'm an uncle, having a chance to see how her son and daughter, which are my niece and nephew, the joy that they get and being able to lead and teach them and help them to evolve as young people growing in their formative years. I'm a husband. My wife is from Toronto. She was a dancer for the Toronto Raptors, and she was a cheerleader for the Buffalo Bills. She's a classically trained dancer, and she teaches young people dance and the arts that have impacted her life and how she interacts with people, our interactions being married. Those things have shaped my views on leadership. Being a student athlete, I mentioned earlier, I started out at a D2 school at Elizabeth City. And that shaped my views. When I went there, I was 5'11", and I go as a 17-year-old freshman, and I wasn't as good, or I wasn't as a focal point of the team as much of a focal point as I was at Southampton High School, where I was a starting quarterback in a very successful program, and in a program for those years that we had some pretty good success. And the way that you have to navigate that, and the role and the way people view you, and then you go from that where you're having a ton of success and you're a part of success, to a D2 school where you're 5'11", and now the coaches in the leadership group, they don't view you in the same light. You don't have as much value on the field at that point. That shaped my views on leadership. And then at the conclusion of my freshman year, I want to go from 5'11" to 6'4", turn 18 years old, I got a little bit bigger. Now all of a sudden, the same leaders, they interacted with me different. That shaped my views and my views on leadership. At the conclusion of that sophomore year, I had a chance to play a little bit more, and I grew to 6'4", and now I had a chance to pursue a dream of mine, and a goal was to play Division I, like my father. I get to James Madison. The first year you have to sit out when you redshirt, and I didn't have the same kind of success in that experience. How those coaches treated me, my position coach, the head coach, how my interactions with the team, the leadership group, those things, that shaped my views on leadership. Moving forward from there, I had a chance to coach AAU. And AAU takes some of the best student athletes across the country, in some cases across the globe, and you're taking them from the ages typically of 14 to 19, and you're getting these young people and you're there with them for a week, and you have to interact with them. Some of these guys come from various places. They have various backgrounds, and you have a very short window of time that you can build trust, that you can build equity, that you can have an opportunity to get to know them and they get to know you, and you have to lead them. You get a chance to see how they lead people. That experience shaped my views on leadership. I had a chance to be a professional head coach in Toronto in a newly formed professional league. That experience was unique. I'm a 29-year-old, I'm moving across to a whole new country, first-time head coach, and I'm asked to lead a group of people that are way older than I am, in some cases that have played for Hall of Fame coaches. Some guys were coming from various other leagues across the country where they made millions of dollars in their respective country. A few even came from the NBA. I'm in a position now where I have to figure out a way to lead these older men that have all their views are already shaped, and I have to find a way to lead this group to success. That shaped some of my views on leadership. I had a chance to start a high school program in Toronto after that pro experience, Orangeville Prep. In that space, we had 30 Division I players and 5 NBA players over a 3-year period. I learned a lot. Those student athletes, they lived in a dorm with us. A lot of times, a lot of those kids, that was their first extended time away from home. So from that experience, from a leadership standpoint, I got a chance to see what it felt like to be a parent. You had to make sure guys got up and they ate breakfast. You had to make sure they did their homework. You had to make sure they went to bed on time. Sometimes you had to cut the internet off because at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, they would be playing Fortnite, or they would be on the computer, on Twitter, and various social media. So sometimes you had to learn to lead a different way. My last experience, and the last thing that's kind of shaped from my experience leadership, is I've had a chance to coach Division III, where there are no scholarships, athletic-based. I got a chance to coach Division II, which is a subsidized deal, and the difference, and I'll explain that in a second. And then lastly, I'm working at Division I, but those 3 levels are different. Division III has restrictions on the amount of time that you can work with guys on the court. So at that level, some of the members of the team have to essentially lead and create small groups and work out throughout the course of the year to ensure your team's success. Division II was kind of a hybrid. We didn't have the same opportunities to spend time with our players as we have at Division I, but it was a little bit more than Division III. So the guys that you were leading and that were leading those groups, they had to take some ownership and leadership, and viewing how they did it their own respective ways, that shaped my views on leadership. Thirdly and lastly, Division I. We have student athletes that are some of the best across the globe. They've been highly touted throughout their career. Dealing with them that were coming just like I was, coming from a high school where they were the best. I've never seen a college coach go to a gym and say, you know what, I want the very worst basketball player. The guy that didn't get off the bench, but I watched him in warm-ups and he hit 23s and he was dunking. I've never seen a college coach come back and tell their boss, man, I want that guy. So dealing with the dynamic of these guys that were the best of the best coming from where they came from, big towns, small towns, cities, various states, being able to see how that works and the leadership and how people lead and how teams evolve, that's contributed to my experience as a leader and shaped my views. These are a few just examples. Anthony Murphy, who's currently on our staff now, he was a great leader. And he was more of a leader by example, I would say. As a junior, he didn't play very much. He played, but he didn't have the role that he wanted, I should say. But he didn't sulk. He never sulked. He worked. He brought energy every day. He was an energy giver, and he led with that. And moving forward to his senior year, he had a great run as a senior. And it was easy for him to lead the guys that may not have had that same kind of role because he can go back and reflect on his experience and he can tell guys, no, I may not have had the role that I wanted, but I worked my tail off and I put myself in a position that as a senior, I had a chance to be a leader. Nick McGlynn, conversely, was a more of a vocal leader. It was pretty common practice before games that he was yelling, chest bumping, slapping chairs. I mean, he was an outward, just vocal leader. And they both had great careers. Brady Ellingson was probably a little bit more of a lead by example guy even than Tone, Anthony Murphy. He was more of a, I'll go to lunch with you, I'll go to dinner with you, I'm going to get to know you and your family, and I'll lead that way. They all had success individually and collectively as a team and were great leaders, but they did it in their own way. And that contributed to the success over the last 2 years that we've had. Orangeville, again, speaking on that experience, you can see here Jamal Murray, Thon Maker, those two guys, they both had incredible reputations. They were both drafted as lottery picks in the NBA, and they were top 10 or top 15 picks in the NBA draft in the same year. Watching them coexist and learn to lead a group and fight for leadership opportunities and navigate it all, while at the same time allowing for us to have collective success, that shaped my views on leadership. When Coach Thomas asked me to do this, I had to go back in my notes. And I have a file from studying at Canisius and working on my master's degree. We study leadership. And I was going back and reflecting on some of that, and this kind of jumped out, and I wanted to share it with you. There's typically leadership can be broken down into 5 styles. One, you have an autocratic leader. That's a leader that says, you know, it's going to be my way or the highway. My mom and dad, when I was growing up, subscribed to this theory and this rule on this type of leadership. Larry, you need to clean your room up. You need to make your bed up. Why? Because I said so. Autocratic leadership. That's my way. If you want to live under my roof, you clean your room up and you make your bed. My high school football coach, incredible leader, old school, autocratic. I can remember throwing a touchdown pass, 40-yard bomb, drop back, 5-step drop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let it rip. Guy runs under it, band's playing, the cheerleaders are jumping around, the fans are excited in a small town, everyone's there, everything shuts down on Friday. I'm excited. And that day, coach could grab you by the face mask. Coach grabs me and my head's kind of turning. He says, Larry, where were you supposed to throw the ball? Coach, he was open. He told me, go sit down on the bench. I didn't play anymore the rest of the game. Autocratic leader, highly successful. The second approach to leadership or type of leader is a democratic leader. This is a type of leadership where we all have a vote in what the goal is. Or we know the goal, but we all have a vote in how we get there. And this type of leadership, the leader will say, you know what? We want to win a championship. And everyone that's assembled in the group that the leader is leading will say, okay, well, I think we should do it this way. I think we should do it this way. I think we should do it this way. And typically we can have a vote, or the leader can say, you know what, I like that, and they'll go with that style. Great form of leadership, can be successful. A third type of leadership is laissez faire. This leadership is we all know what the goal is, and we'll find our own reasonable way to get to that goal. And I spent some time working in local government, and we knew what our goals were and what we were supposed to do, but we didn't have a ton of meetings. Do your job. Get it done. We know it needs to be done. If you can't get it done, we'll bring someone else that can. But that was more of a laissez-faire approach. They're not going to tell you how you get it done, just get it done. The fourth type is transactional. This is more being motivated by the reward. This type of leadership, specifically in athletics, and I'll give you an example from that point of view, there's incentives and contracts in the NBA. If you make 50 threes, you get $20,000 bonus. If you are all league, you'll get $1 million bonus. Effective form of leadership. If you need someone to make threes, and they make threes, then you reward them. The problem that I have personally with this type of leadership, because it works, is that people that subscribe to this, your individual goals may not be what's best for the collective good of the entire group. But great leadership style, it works for people, but that will be my one gripe with that style of leadership, because sometimes it can promote a selfish mentality because I have to get to mine to be able to get my reward. The fifth type of leadership, and the one that I subscribe to, and in my opinion is the best, and I think it's the best form for this modern day, is transformational. And this is a type of leadership that's inspirational. You start with a why. You appeal to people's heart. You find something that impacts them to their core, and if it impacts them to their core, then they're more than willing to follow your leadership. If you can reach someone's heart, then their brain, their body, their soul, everything follows. And this is the type of leadership that I want to kind of discuss a little bit, because I think it's the best form of leadership now, just based on my experience. And that doesn't mean that it's the only way and it's the right way, but it's the one that I think works best. I want to kind of review or kind of just explore Simon Sinek. He does a lot of podcasts. He's written books, Start With Why, and this was one of the guys that we studied at Canisius when I was pursuing my master's degree. He has what he calls or refers to as the golden circle. And you can see here, he says that most leaders, they start with the outside of the circle, the what, and then they get to the how. Typically, they don't even get to why. What do we want to do? We want to win a championship. How do we want to do it? We want to get very good players. Makes sense? Sounds like a formula for winning to me. But Simon Sinek, he argues that you should start the opposite way. And you should start with why. And I'll use that same example. We want to develop highly successful people both on and off the basketball court so that they are equipped to be successful people when they go on into life. I can rally around that. I can get excited about that. Parents can get excited about that. And that's our why. We want successful people, both on and off the court. We need to win, that's a part of it. But we also want fathers. We want successful business people. We want people that can come back and they can change our world. People can rally that. So if that's our why, then how do we get there? Interesting thought. We want good people. We want reliable people. We want competitive people. We want people with values similar to ours. That's our how. And then what, if you're working your way out, if you look at the circle, Simon Sinek, way smarter than I am, if we do those two things, then we'll get a championship. We'll have a chance to win. Very fair, works for me, sounds like a winner. And if you look at successful companies, Starbucks one in particular, their mission, and if you look here, is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. That's a whole lot different than what? Oh, to sell a cup of coffee. Their why is what causes people to enjoy their Starbucks coffee. Their why is why they're rated as one of the best employers in the country, in the world, really. People know their why. Why are we here? They make your experience great. It's more than this cup of coffee or this double pump latte grande macchiato venti. I don't even know the Starbucks language, but when you leave, they have a following. People, they feel good when they go. They enjoy their experience. Adidas is one of our sponsors. They have a core values and mission statements. And Southwest and Apple, very highly successful companies, they all subscribe to this approach of starting with why. One of those companies that was mentioned was Southwest. Gary Kelly is the CEO. He lists 5 traits that effective leaders have. One of them is caring. And I will offer that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think when people know how much you care, they're way more inclined to listen to what you know. The second thing that he will offer for 5 traits of effective leaders is that they have the ability to communicate. You can have an incredible why. You can have 20 syllable words. You can have elaborate vocabulary. But if you can't reach that group and communicate what that why is, then it won't be effective. That was his second trait of effective leaders. The third one is character. If you show up late every day, if they find out that you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, if you're cheating, if you're manipulating the system, then that's going to ruin your credibility. People aren't going to want to follow you. People like following people that do the right thing. If you're not competent, which is the 4th trait, that requires work. Sometimes you have to go read books. You have to continue to study leadership. Leadership is evolving, it's changing, it's growing. People are changing. You may have to find a leadership and you have to stretch yourself. My high school coach in 1998, he didn't want to hear anything about transformational leadership. His style of leadership worked for him. He still coaches, and as he's grown and he's evolved, he's changed from that autocratic leadership style where he was the dictator almost, into now he's more of a transformational leader. And that's a sign of a great leader because you're willing to be competent and you're willing to continue growing, to learn, and to continue working at your craft. And the last one is courage. Great leaders have courage, the 5th trait according to Gary Kelly. Leaders aren't always liked. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes you have to be willing to transition, to change. Sometimes, you know what, one of the best things that you can do as a leader is have the courage to say, you know what, I made a mistake. For many people, that's a very daunting task as a leader to be able to say, you know what, I just didn't have it today, I made a mistake, that's my fault. In practice, I raised my voice at you, I went home, I watched the film, I'm sorry, you know what, you were right. You were in the right place, I was in the wrong, I'm sorry. That goes a long way with leadership. So there's a couple case studies that I would like to share in reference to those 5 traits. And one is one of Appleton Parker Bird's finest, Coach DeVries. Incredible coach, incredible mentor, incredible friend, family man. And I think he exudes all of these 5 characteristics and traits. He cares. A story that I share with recruits is I had met my wife. I never had heard of Des Moines, Iowa. And I get a call. I'm at Canisius. We had came off a 24-win season. We won a championship. Everybody's happy. Woo! And I get a call from Coach DeVries, and he asked, I got an opportunity to be a head coach at a dream job of mine. Would you have interest in coming? And I don't know, Coach. To be honest, I never heard of Des Moines. I knew it was the capital just based on some geography classes. But I said, sure, Coach, I'm excited to come to Des Moines. And Coach, in his way, he kind of gradually and in his own subtle way, he told me no, and he shaped it no, and he kind of kept saying, yeah, man, Des Moines is awesome. I'm like, yeah, I want to come to Des Moines. And he could have easily said, you know what, man, this dude doesn't even know how to pronounce Des Moines. And he had the grace and the passion, the grace to lead me in the right direction and to help me understand that. But the story goes on. I had met my wife. I proposed to her at a Raptors game on national television, which was awesome, one of the best days of our life. And I'm telling Coach, you know what, I have to get married May 12th. And Coach says, you know, that's an important day. I'm saying, Coach, you know, I want to come and work for you. I want to be there, but when do you need me? And Coach says, you know what? You need to handle the business of your wedding, your marriage. That's the most important day of you and your wife's life. And that's cool. You're trying to take a new job. And I'm like, Coach, haha, you know, okay, tell me, you need me here. You know, maybe I do the wedding and, you know, I'll change everything because I want this job. I want to be a part of what you're building. And he said, no, if it takes you a week, it takes a week. If it takes you a month, it takes you a month. And I'm convinced that leadership that he has is a byproduct of Coach Thomas. These are things that he learned, the compassion, the caring. And Coach, and if I want to qualify it just a little bit more, that point we had 3 scholarship players, you get 13. We had 1 assistant that was on staff that was here. Our second assistant had been hired, but he had his 3rd child, so he was in Florida. And now I need to get married. So you're supposed to have 3 assistant coaches and 1 head coach. And to make the long story short, a coach is taking his dream job. We only have 3 players. We're almost in a state of crisis. We have to play basketball in a couple months. And because of the kind of person and the compassion that he has and the caring, his nature, he says, Larry, you handle that, whatever it takes, and we'll figure out this basketball deal. That stuck out. That's a great leader. He cares. The second thing is there was a derecho a couple weeks back in the greater Des Moines area, and we're finally able to practice with our players after the pandemic. And there's a derecho. There's trees down, there's power out, it's bad. It's really bad. And Coach says, you know what? He sends a tweet. If anyone needs help that's impacted, shoot us a tweet. And we'll get our team there. So for 3 weeks, we shut down practice. Someone would send us an address. We'll go to Urbandale, go downtown Des Moines. But what stood out to me was not that he shut down practice and that we helped a lot of people that really needed it. But every time we got there, 15 minutes before we showed up, he was there. He would be in a full sweat. He had already started cutting trees and stacking trees. He had already started the process. And as a leader, that just showed, 1, how much he cared, and 2, his commitment to being there and leading the charge. And that was an awesome experience, and it really showed how much he cared. Communicating the vision for him has been really simple. I want people that my family can hang out with. It's pretty common practice if you come to our practices. His beautiful wife, Ashley, you can see in this photo, his son, Tucker, his daughter, Tatum, they hang out, they're around. Our guys get a chance to see what that's like, and he's communicated that. He wants people that his family can be around. From a basketball standpoint, he wants 3 things to be understood clearly when you watch our team. He wants the toughest team, he wants the most disciplined team, and he wants the most unselfish team. Pretty simple. It's communicated. We know those things. Recruit good people that his family can be around, and he wants the toughest, the most disciplined, and most unselfish people. Pretty clear cut. Character is important. Again, Coach has his family around. He teaches our guys by his example what it's like to be a husband, what it's like to be a father, what it's like to honor your word. Those things are important to him. And again, I think those things were shaped here in AP. He's competent. His results speak for themselves. He's in the Iowa Hall of Fame as an athlete. He scored 1,000 points at the University of Northern Iowa. He worked at Creighton for 20 years. That's unheard of in this profession. No one does that. Everyone's trying to chase the next job. He was there when they were in the Valley, and he built and was part of and one of the consistent pillars in helping develop that program into one of the best programs across the country in the Big East. Now, they had an unparalleled success. He got an opportunity to get his first Division I coaching job at Drake, his dream job. He's Iowa through and through, an Iowa native. That was a job that he had circled as he was going through the ranks. I'm going to hang tight. I want that job. In his first 2 years, we've won 20 games, 20 or more games. 24 in the first year and 20 in the second. That's the second time in school history that that's happened, that there's been back-to-back 20 wins. He's been coach of the year. He's competent. But I also believe those other values contribute to that. And the fifth one is he has courage. He's willing to evolve. He's willing to listen. He's willing to grow. He may not always go with, as assistants, our thoughts or as players' thoughts, but he has the courage to listen. He has the courage to say, you know what, I'll try that. Not always, but when it's necessary. He has the courage to say, you know what, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. He has the courage. And I'm convinced that that's what has allowed him to have success, but a lot of that is deeply rooted in his upbringing. Guys like Coach Thomas, people that he grew up with, his family, and those things they're vital roles of effective leaders, and I'm thankful that I have an opportunity to be a part and learn from it. The second leader that I would like to highlight is my grandfather, Granddaddy Blunt. He cared, served in World War II, and when he came back, he realized that in the 60s, people where we grew up may not have had the same opportunities that others had. Civil rights era South. Some people couldn't work. Some people had to go to different restrooms. That's the history. But when my grandfather came back from the war, he had a vision that he would create an opportunity for employment for people. He would create transportation for people that may not have been able to afford transportation, but he had this vision that he would help people. And my grandfather showed that with that, he had this vision. And again, vision is powerful. My grandfather communicated that vision because he asked the pastor at our church, where he was a deacon, he says, Pastor, we have all those folding chairs in our dining hall. Are you okay with me getting a few of those? And he went on, Pastor looked at him crazy. At this point, folding chairs, yeah, sure. He said, you know what, I have a vision for helping people. He's communicating his vision. I want to help people that don't have jobs, that don't have the transportation or the means to get to work. And Pastor looked at him, man, that's pretty powerful. How do you plan to do it? I was able to get a dump truck, purchase a dump truck. He took those chairs and he said, I'm going to bolt those chairs into the dump truck. I'm going to put a covering over the dump truck. So if you can imagine, folding chairs, canvas over top. And where we grew up in that small town, it was 1 hour to Richmond, Virginia, which is the capital of the state of Virginia, and it's 1 hour to Norfolk, Virginia, in the other direction, near the beach. And my grandfather served in the war, but he only had a 5th grade education. With the experiences that he had in the war and serving, he was able to take that folding chair, that dump truck with those folding chairs, and create the largest bus company in the state of Virginia with charter buses. He chartered that bus company in 1964, 1 year before they passed the Civil Rights Act. All of that with a 5th grade education. His character was impeccable. He was a deacon. If he gave you his word, he was going to do it. If you needed something, you call him, he will help you. His leadership not only impacted and served a community, but my father. He learned how to work hard, how to lead, how to not make excuses. He was competent. That 5th grade education, he made that bus, it worked. He took countless people to and from work. He gave people jobs, he employed them. He had over 20 charter buses as the company grew. People had jobs. He had to fix those buses with a 5th grade education. He made it work. He was competent. And he had the courage. In a space in the 60s in Virginia in the South, everyone wasn't treated equal. But he had the courage to say, you know what? I want to change that. I don't care if people oppose it. Some of the larger bus companies across the world, throughout the state, they didn't want this little bus company to thrive that started from a dump truck and folding chairs. I learned a lot of things from him, passed down, from stories that people have shared. He had 10 kids, 6 sons, 4 daughters. He provided, in spite of building his company with a 5th grade education. I think that takes courage. So he's been another person that shaped my views on leadership and an inspiration. In summary and conclusion, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to have a few minutes to share. Coach Thomas, thank you so much for this, because these are things that over the last few weeks that I've had a chance to kind of reflect and look back. I think it's important, and for me, I think it's important with leadership to start with why. Why do you want to do it? What is the purpose? What's the goal? How can we reach people? Transformational leadership. What are we trying to accomplish? The why. It's important to have vision for that and to be able to communicate that vision. I think the second thing in conclusion is to be authentic. There's varying styles of leadership. In some cases, one may be better than another. Going to class, pretty autocratic on that leadership style. You don't go to class, you don't play. Pretty simple. Sometimes you may need to have some type of laissez faire leadership. Do your job, this is the vision, do what you need to do, and we'll get it done. Sometimes you may be in a space, where it may need to be a transactional. That may motivate. So you have to be authentic to your style of leadership that works, but you also have to understand the space that you're using that leadership. And I would say the third, and I think this is the most important, and I'll say this in conclusion, you have to have a willingness to work, evolve, and grow. Leadership changes. When I was growing up, we didn't have a cell phone. Some of our leadership involves, guys may not want to come to the office and hang out and have a conversation. Sometimes we may have to text them the clips because they keep the telephone in their hand. Sometimes we may have to send them an inspiring tweet because that's the language they speak. And I think that's one of the most important parts in conclusion, is that you have to be willing to evolve and grow. And I think effective leaders have all of those traits. Again, my name is Larry Blunt, an assistant coach over at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. And I thank you so much, Coach Thomas. Much respect to your father and to everyone that's associated with your foundation. It's an incredible opportunity for people to explore leadership and to honor the legacy of your father. And I can't thank you enough for, again, affording me this opportunity. I hope that everyone stays safe and well during this pandemic, and I look forward to visiting with you guys again soon. Thank you again.